Hey, gang, it is the first Wednesday of May. In fact, May the 4th it is.
I didn't know you were going to do
May
that.
the 4th be with you. Hey, okay,
Well
now
done.
you all officially know that I am a Star Wars nerd.
Well done.
Yes, I thought that was kind of cool. I did not even tell JB I was going to do that.
No.
But you know
Color
what?
me
Most
surprised.
importantly, it's Hump Day, JB.
It's my
Meaning
favorite day.
that it's time for Happy Hour with Dentists in the Know. This is your backstage look at current trends, politics, and education in the dental world. It's live and it's over a cocktail. Cheers, my lady.
Cheers, my sir, my
You didn't
senor.
even know how to come back to that.
No, what is it, my liege? Cheers,
I'm
my
Dr.
liege.
Jeff Horowitz. My co-hosts are Dr. Jennifer Bell, otherwise known as JB. And of course, Chatty Duplantis is on the road again, traveling tonight. He'll be back with us again next week. But regardless, we're going to have some great fun. We're going to have some great education. You guys know the routine. All of us are practicing dentists. We're all educators. We're all business owners. And our job is to bring all of you in the know. Tonight, I do want to mention that our show is brought to you by our educational partners at Q Optics. So cheers to Q Optics. Cheers to you, JB.
You know, I received my first pair of Q Optics only 2 weeks ago. And as a backstory, I have been a long subscriber to a different pair of loops and light. In fact, since I graduated from dental school. So I've used a similar light loop combination for 14, 15 years. So obviously, I was slightly skeptical about switching my armamentarium to something that I wasn't super familiar with. But thus far, I'm 2 weeks in, and I wanted to do a fair review for the product because I don't think you can really tell from the first day you put them on and in comparison. The one thing I noticed out the gate was just how freaking clear those magnifiers are compared to the other ones I had. Like there is zero comparison in how clear. And I've used multiple loops now and from a similar brand, but multiple loops. I've not seen anything that sharp or that crisp in any of the loops that I've used. But oddly enough, the thing that I absolutely love the most is the light. And I know that's not what they probably want me promoting, but I have used a light combo on my loops because we don't do over the chair mounted lights in our operatories. When we built our practice,
So you don't have any at all?
We only have one, and that's just for temp hygiene that comes in.
Wow.
Not any. I mean, we only bought the one because we realized that was an Achilles heel for anybody that came in to help us out. And if they come and help us out on a routine basis, we end up buying them loops because we just need them to be flexible.
Oh, but what happened? And I'm sorry to interrupt what you were saying, but and this is interesting to me because we're building this new office now, and I am putting overhead lights in all the rooms still.
Why?
Because if somebody's light goes out, what do?
How often does your light go out?
You know, I mean, sometimes you leave your loops down on a desk somewhere, or
well, you have backup batteries or whatever. Yeah. The backup batteries solve that problem. And then, like all my team members, we equipped my assistants and my dental hygienists have loops and light to do their job. So they're responsible for keeping their batteries charged. They all have their own backup batteries. It's part of their employment relationship with us. The dental assistants don't, some of them have loops. Some of them just have safety glasses with a light mounted on them, and they can use that just fine. Plus we have the ISOLite, which also provides a fair amount of light and illumination.
Yeah.
So we just wanted to save on the $6,000 or $8,000 chair mounted light. Plus it's just, there's so much in the room. Like when you have to manage all the different arms and this is my own personal opinion, but I think I like head mounted illumination better than I like chair mounted. It's
there's no doubt. I do too.
So then you just have to equip equip your office with the things they need to be able to make that conversion. And you can buy 6 loop lights for the cost of 1 chair mounted light.
Fair. No, I mean, this is a good
So,
conversation.
but we still had to have one because there'll always be somebody who needs a light. And so
I just couldn't bring myself to not do it. I was just like,
I know.
What about that time? And you look, you know me, I might take my loops off just because I did a long procedure and I just want them off for a few minutes and walk in the room. I don't know. What a good conversation though. I'd love to find out how many dentists that are now equipping offices are actually just scrubbing the overhead light.
I think
now,
it's fair amount.
I don't like them on the chair. I would only do it as a ceiling mount light.
But like see, we have our TVs on a ceiling mount, like a swivel ceiling mount.
Well, you could put anything on the ceiling.
Oh, I know, but you can't put everything on the ceiling.
You can put everything on the ceiling.
Kind of like what Lionel Richie said. Wasn't he even dancing on the ceiling?
He was dancing on the ceiling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but it would be a competing landscape if you had both a TV and a chair mounted light all coming from the ceiling, right?
Maybe.
So we're able.
You know what? This is actually a great conversation. I mean, it sounds boring as hell, but I mean, honestly, I'm going to end up dropping. I mean, really, they're about, when you buy a bunch of them, you can get a halfway decent one for $3 and change.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I mean, but still, you know, we're doing 8 ops on one, 9 ops on one side, 4 ops on the other, 13 ops. That's a lot of money.
Yep. You could just, I mean, depending on how many staff you have.
Yeah.
You just use head mounted illumination.
Yeah.
So basically what I wanted to say about the Q-Optics light is the thing that I love about the mount is that I can rotate it from side to side and it's got enough of rigidity against the mount that I can actually just with the wrist of my arm, just move the orange curing shield up and down. With my old light, I was getting to the point that I was going to I had to deglove every time so that I could take my finger and move that orange curing cover over the light so I could keep moving forward. And I was super annoyed with that. So right now I love the prismatic vision in the Q-Optics. I can really appreciate the difference in the visualization, but I also just really love their light. It's great illumination, but the flexibility on the mound is really, really good. So I am a happy customer thus far.
Well, it's a great point. I have 2 pairs, one for each of my offices. And then we opened that third practice and I decided I was going to take an old pair that I had up there. I actually take one of my Q-Optics, pack them up, bring them up there. They're just, honestly, they are half the weight with
that is so true.
Half the weight with better vision. And I'm just
absolutely.
like, yeah. And honestly, that the one thing, you know, we told you when we started this is that we didn't want to be a site that was selling people stuff or that was seen as very commercial, that the only people that we would take on as educational partners are companies that we have vetted, that we have used, that we love, and that other colleagues that we know have done the same and have had good experiences with. So, and Q-Optics is definitely one of those companies.
The thing that's crazy is how much I take for granted or acclimate to annoyances. Instead of, like, I didn't realize what an annoyance my light was on my old set of loops until I had a different light that had different functionality. I just accepted that light had its annoyances and it was just my problem that I was going to have to deal with. And I wonder now in reflection in my own practice, how many of those annoyances do I deal with on a daily basis where there's just a better, superior product or more innovative or have solved the right problem I just haven't found yet. You know?
So to that note, it's really interesting you say that because I was always a flip down loop kind of guy. And the reason is that I could never find a through the lens company. And I tried several of them that got it right. The interpupillary distance, I found that I was always adjusting the glasses to make sure that I had the right angle versus the flip downs that I could set to my own parameters. But we all know with flip downs, what's the dirtiest thing in the room? I mean, unless you're degloving, like you said, every time you're flipping up and flipping down, you've got a mess on your hands.
Absolutely.
So, when I met the Q Optics people and they said, let us make you a pair through the lens, I think you're going to see this, no pun intended, you're going to see this a little bit differently. And truly, like, these things are perfect and they're light and I have nothing to flip up and down and life is good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we have an amazing show because we've got a guy that I've been trying to get on the show for some time now. I've known him through Catapult Education and just seeing him on the road. And he's a fellow educator. He's a consultant. He's been around as long as I have. I was going to say longer than I have, but I didn't want to insult him.
Don't say that.
That's an insult anymore when you say that.
As long.
But this guy is known to most of the dentists out there as America's technology coach. And he's from my neck of the woods in New Jersey. Dr. Marty Jablow is going to be chatting it up with us and talking technology and Celerant, and we'll get into all of those topics. He's just an amazing guy, and I'm excited we were finally able to work it out time-wise. But first, what would a Wednesday be without Jennifer sharing some of the canoes?
Well, it would just be sad. That's what I would say. I know. So here's the interesting thing about the news in dentistry. There are a few things kind of looming we've talked about out in the political sphere, but it is all quiet on the ADA front because of the cyber attack that we sort of broke to news last week. We certainly weren't the first, but it had happened within 12 to 24 hours of our podcast last week, where the ADA had a pretty significant cyber attack. And I think now the dust has settled and we're starting to see the significance of that cyber attack. And I can tell you, it is quiet on the ADA front. There's not a lot happening over there except for some adjustment and damage control. And then, where do we go from here? How do we adjust? There was some pretty significant data that so from the cyber attackers who went out to do this activity, this nefarious activity. They've released W-2 forms, they've released personnel information, they've released private member information. They've released a significant amount of data. So first, we actually found this out last week on the show. I don't know if it's changed, but up until last week, you couldn't even really change your password. Your account was pretty much locked down. So if you can get access to your account and change your password, probably good. But they also really warned about phishing scams related to anything having to do with the ADA or your membership, that they certainly have access to a significant amount of membership data, current and non-current members. And so, you may receive some fishy emails or things that are trying to compromise your own security in addition, because now they have access to you. So just at the moment, be very cautious and conscientious about any strange messages or DMs that you're getting, and certainly any emails asking for personal security information. I feel really confident at this point that the ADA is not going to solicit any secure information through email or text or phone call or social media. So if you're getting that type of solicitation from the ADA, I would probably politely decline.
Hey, we've got your CEREC. If you ever want to see your CEREC ever prep another crown.
Funny.
If you ever want to see your CEREC mill another crown, send us $100,000 right away. Exactly. Oh no, we've already given that company hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I'm good. Bleeding has
I'm
stopped.
good.
That's really funny that you mentioned that, because I'm really mad at mine right now because let's see, we had to do 3 calibrations in 12 hours to mill 2 crowns. Each calibration with PTC on the phone took 2 hours. And we got 2 crowns to show for that. And then today it hummed like a freaking hummingbird over there, milling crowns left and right. Like nothing's wrong. No big deal. We only screwed your day up on Tuesday, but Wednesday we feel pretty good about it. It's not to knock it. I love the technology. I am all dialed in as a CIRAC user, but doggone, that technology can be super frustrating sometimes. So
All technology.
I know,
right?
I know.
I mean, it's the price you pay, but it's also why I think it's so important for especially younger dentists who have been exposed to so much technology so early in their career to really understand the analog procedures.
Correct.
You know,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
just to be able to take a step back and go, I can still do this, right? It's like my day didn't end because this happened.
That's right.
Yeah.
In addition, there were 2 other more common stories that actually made more mainstream news, and dentists were related to those as well. One was a pretty tragic story of a dentist, I believe out of Pennsylvania, who was stabbed by his son at his home. His son was 22 at the time. He's been arrested since then. And all news reports would indicate that the dentist, as best as the PR campaign is doing, was a very beloved dentist in their community, was really serving and taking care of the folks who live there. So just a really tragic story. I hate that we have to have these conversations about dentists in the news that have unfortunate situations that happen, and you don't know all the backstories, but it is so refreshing to see that at the end of such a terrible story and a family tragedy, that the story about the dentist was so positive, and what an impact he had made on his community and on others who were in need of seeking dental treatment. And he was really portrayed in an extremely positive light as an active member of his group. And I think that's so important, because sometimes we don't always get the best PR. So even in that tragedy, it's nice to see the dentist sort of being lifted up by his fellow peers. The other story was a really positive one on Dental Nachos, and that was a dentist, and I'll repost this tomorrow, a dentist who gave a team member $20,000 as a thank you for her tenure in his organization. And so then you see these amazing acts of kindness, particularly in more financially challenging situations that are happening every day for most of us as practicing dentists. And yet most dentists are really upholding the credo that they've all subscribed to, which is, helping others, which was a large consistent theme today. When you looked at that post about why did you become a dentist, so much of that was about helping others and providing them optimal health. And, when you see them also taking care of the people in their community, the people who work for them every day, people in their family, it's just a testament to lives well lived.
That's really a great story. And finally, JB ends on a positive note.
I know. And thank you, everyone, for not totally ruining the news by only giving me negative stories. Next week, I'm sure rainbows will be gone. We'll be back to the dark clouds and the Eeyore news that I'm so acclimated to.
So I have a question about the ADA security breach there. So if someone is not a member of the ADA, do they need to worry? I mean, does the ADA, because the ADA has data even if you're not a member, is that not correct?
That is correct. So I know of previous employers who have been contacted by the ADA because while they worked at the ADA before and no longer, their information has been compromised. And I would assume that membership information, whether a current or non-current member, is still stored in the database. So, what the attackers have intended to use it for will be beyond me. I don't know if this was a ransom situation or just an attempt to leak information. But I can tell you, I went onto the ADA's website today, again, looking for the news, and there is just almost no activity, no update in the news categories of things. And, you know, often when I prepare for the show, I hit multiple sites if it's not something I haven't already read about or seen throughout the week, just to cross-reference to make sure I've seen every, you know, nuance that's out there. And consistently for the last 2 weeks now, the ADA is just, the needle hasn't moved at all. And they're very active on their site and updating it hourly almost. So I know that they're in a world of hurt right now. And I do feel for the employees, and I feel for the organization, because they're having to spend a lot of time and a lot of membership dollars cleaning this mess up. So
Everyone, take a second or two just to watch the Q Optics video, and then we're going to bring Marty Jablow on. So interesting, JB. Did you know that last year that they were the Celerant winner of Best in Class?
No.
Does everyone know out there what Celerant is?
I don't. Tell me.
So I think everybody needs to know more about Celerant. And our next guest just so happens to be the Chief Development Officer for Celerant Consulting, the people who give this award away. He also happens to be a managing partner in his dental practice. He also happens to be from my neck of the woods. I grew up in Old Bridge. He's in Woodbridge, like literally one on top of the other.
Is there a new bridge?
What is it?
Is there a new bridge?
There is not a new bridge. There is an old bridge and there is a wood bridge, but there is not a new bridge.
Or a metal.
But ladies and gentlemen, this is America's technology coach, Marty Jablow. How you doing, Marty?
I'm good. Hey, everybody.
Marty.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing me in here. I just jumped off a Celerant call for this year's 2022 Best in Class.
So for those who don't know, will you just tell us a little bit about what Celerant is and maybe the background of Celerant?
So let's start with that. Okay. So most everybody doesn't know what Celerant Consulting is, but have known what the Celerant Best of Class Awards are. That's a yearly award that's not voted on. That's the first thing that makes it a little bit different, you know, than every other ones that that are out there. Everybody gets to vote. This isn't about voting. We've been doing this, God, now close to 15 years, I guess. And what it is we just select stuff that we think can benefit the dental community. All right. And that's 5 of us, myself, John Fluke, Paul Feuerstein, Pam Maragliano Muniz, Chris Salerno, Lou Schumann. And we go.
So all hacks.
Yeah, a bunch of hacks, you know. The people who, John and Paul have been my lecture partners for many, many years at this point, too many to talk about.
Very well known.
We just, we just started Lou started this many years ago. And the whole idea was just to find products and technologies that we could give back to the dental community and say, these should work. So with that, it's evolved over time. The actual process it's not a popularity contest. Actually, we go pretty strong at each other going, why, some company or some product is better than the others. And, in the end, we get to some kind of consensus, and then that's how we select the winners. There's no categories. All right. We don't go, okay, we need a software or we need a hardware. Kind of the only 2 categories right now that we like to pick an item in is cone beam and intraoral scanning, strictly because that seems to be where the market is looking for information. So with that, we do that, and we just take it from there. But yeah, there's nobody buying their way in. There's no stuffing a ballot box. There's none of that going on. It's literally 5 of us in a room going, which one would you buy?
How many of those awards do you roughly give out a year?
Usually it's somewhere between 18 and 22. And like I said, then there's some companies that have won them multiple years ongoing. And some of them have dropped out and come back in. But yeah, in order to stay in this, you have to continue to innovate. If you don't do anything and you just, listen, there's a lot of products, and the easiest one I can think of is Velsco. That's the same thing as Kleenex and anything else. Everybody, if you were to talk about that, that's what you're measured against. Yeah. Well, they were the winners for a number of years, but once they stopped innovating, that was it. We're not looking for you to rest on your laurels. Okay. It's still going to be the product that we all judge against, but that's probably the best example. So that's kind of what we do, and that's how most people know us. We have this big thing at the ADA where we put on all these lectures, and I'll give you a little scoop. We're not going to be there this year, but that's kind of where we're at. We've got some new things coming at you, so that was a biggie. But with that, it's being able to help the community in making decisions and purchasing decisions. Because one of the things that's really the biggest problem for most dentists is that they're afraid to make a very expensive decision as what they might need. Do I buy this cone beam for $50, $60, $75, $100,000, and what's it going to do for me?
Right.
And it's a big decision, and now with intraoral scanners, there's how many are out there on the market, and why would I select one over another? And those are kind of some of the things that we try, and when we get to giving these awards, we're doing it because we'd like to kind of narrow the focus down. And sometimes we'll have multiple scanners or multiple cone beams, and that's okay. But it's kind of limit what you need to look at because we've already done the legwork.
Yeah.
What's good. What's in my office doesn't necessarily work for you, Jeff. But all of these things are just different, and we have to figure that out as to what we're looking for. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want to try and help everybody to make better purchasing decisions, take the fear aspects out. I have people who occasionally will call my office and ask my staff, what do we use? Okay. Yeah. You're looking at me, like, wow. Oh, absolutely. And they'll call. They don't even want to talk to me. They'll go, what sensors do you use? Or what's your cone beam? Or what scanner does he use? And they don't even talk to me because their answer is, well, I guess if it's good enough for me, then it must be good enough for them. The problem is every piece of technology, you need to start with the important question. What's it going to do for you?
That's right.
What's it doing for me? And why am I selecting that? And, that's an important one, especially when we're talking about scanners. I'm going to use the perfect example that I always use. If you do Invisalign, you get one choice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, if you're doing other things, can you use that scanner? Yes, you can. But I think there's better scanners for other uses if you're not stuck to Invisalign. So with that, we just got to see, where that all goes. But that's kind of the stuff that I always say. If you're looking for technology, look for what you need, not for what I need or any of you need or anybody else out there. Ask your friends, ask a KOL like myself, but don't just assume that, this one works for me, because it may not work for you.
Yeah.
So that's a great point, Marty. And I think a lot of people would love, because old people like me take for granted when you talk about names like Paul Feuerstein and Lou Schumann and maybe some of the younger people don't know who these pioneers are. So if you don't mind, just take a minute, talk about your relationship to those people and how you all got started working together.
Well, okay, so John, Paul, and I go back a long time now, decades. All right. Before the World Wide Web, there was a thing called science.medicine.dentistry. It was a Usenet group. You don't even know what I'm talking about. Okay. And it was where dentists could exchange. And there were also lay people in this group asking questions. It was a very wild, wild west situation, much more than Dentaltown is. And it was just a free for all. And then there were things like CompuServe had a dental chat in there, and AOL had theirs. But then we all met on a thing called the Internet Dental Forum, which started
Which, by the way, I still have an AOL email address. I do not use it anymore. It's retired. It's been long retired.
Yeah.
But I had an RCTPFM.
I know. I've emailed you at that.
So I'll tell you this. So from my first email address, I never had an AOL address. I never had a CompuServe address. I had a friend of mine who was very involved in the internet early on. I've always had my name in some form or fashion. My first one was Jablow@orn.com. Now it's my name anyway. I've got multiple email addresses, but it goes back a long way. So that's how we all met. Ultimately, John became the tech editor and now is the editor of Dental Products Report. Paul is the editor of Dentistry Today. I'm a freelancer, so I get to do whatever I want. And that's how we started. We started lecturing. I think it was, the story is we were all in Montreal. I'm guessing this is somewhere 1999, 2000 maybe. John was talking and he said, if somebody asked a tech question between.
And by the way, I didn't mention John's full name. John Fluke is who you're talking about. So yeah. John Fluke, Paul Feuerstein, and
then I'll get to Lou. I'll get to Lou. So he just said at this meeting we were all at in Montreal, between the three of us, there's not a tech question we can't answer. And that's how we started to get together to lecture. And we've been doing this, as people call us the Three Amigos. They call us a whole bunch of things, but we've been together for a long time. We took a break, although we still would do things together. But the band is back together and we're taking it out on the road, and we're back in LA at the Van Nuys or San Fernando Valley Dental Society at the end of June. So that may not have been publicized yet, but the three of us are going to do a lecture, put the band back together. There's a couple more that may be happening too, just because at this point we want to do it because it's fun. Lou Schumann, we joined with Lou with the start of Best of Class, like about, 15 years ago. I don't even know exactly. And Lou's an orthodontist by trade, but Lou had then gone on to be.
So he didn't work.
Yeah, I mean, the question
He
is
doesn't
an
even know where the glove box is.
well, but the question really is an orthodontist a dentist?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they don't pick up a handpiece.
They have excellent phone skills.
Yes, exactly. So, so Lou wound up, he worked for a whole bunch of different companies. Invisalign, he helped bring Invisalign to the GP market. Okay. He then became president of Pride, which is a practice management company. And the awards originally were the Pride Best in Class Awards. And then Lou left Pride, and Amy Morgan took over. And then Lou then started Selrin Consulting, which I guess is about 6 years ago. And Selrin Consulting, at this point, what we do is we help all different kinds of companies, from incubator startups all the way up to the big boys. All right. So from nothing to billions. And we do a lot of different things, everywhere from product development, education, marketing. We kind of help them grow whatever business they're looking to do. So that's kind of the Selrin thing. And then, we've got offshoots of all different things, different projects that everybody's working on, some in combination together, some that are, a little bit different.
What other consulting do you do? Do you do any other consulting besides that? How much of your time are you spending in your practice in Woodbridge versus the time you're spending with Selrin and lecturing?
So, that comes in different waves. I mean, I'm a full-time practicing dentist. All right. I work 32 hours on a normal week, treating patients. I mean, I work Monday through Thursday, and now I take off long weekends. But so I'm a wet glove dentist, just like everybody else. I mean, I'm in the trenches. I use the materials that I use. I test materials for lots of different companies. There's always boxes and boxes of stuff that's sitting on my desk. I mean, right now we're going through a whole bunch of Infinix composites and bonding agents, which is the new antimicrobial one. I was involved with that for quite a while already, prior to it's getting FDA and coming to market. But with that, so there's kind of this big overlap that I call it, because a lot of the stuff to be relevant and talk about, you got to use it. I mean,
you do. Yep.
I hate somebody who gets up on a podium and talks about something, but never used the stuff or used it once. And I go back to a story. This is the first KOL event I was ever at, and I didn't know why I was invited. All right. It was an anesthesia event, and I'm there with Stan Malmed and all this other stuff. And I'm going, these are the guys that wrote the books. Why am I here? Well, the windup was that I had been using the product for about 6 months. I had more experience using the product than everybody else in that room, because they had only looked at it for 2 weeks. And so all of a sudden I went from why am I here to I know why I'm here.
Yeah.
And my opinion mattered, even though I was in awe. I mean, these are the people who wrote the textbooks that I was, looking at in anesthesia. So, with that, so over the course of these, 20 something years, I've been in a lot of product development, and that works in my office. So there's a big overlap. I call it lunchtime is usually where I'm talking to some client. All right. The clients are not dentists. I mean, I don't take on dentists as a client. I mean, if somebody wants information on something or I can help them, I'm happy to spend a few minutes with a colleague, but I'm not coming in your office and saying, let's do a techno makeover. Okay.
Right.
That's just not going to happen. It's not cost effective for anybody. But so I do that. I'm out. I've cut back the lecturing portion of what I do significantly. After COVID, I said, why am I on the road? Mm-hmm. Why am I getting out on the road and doing a whole
literally, I saw you more times in airports and at other locations. I used to bump into you everywhere, and we're like, gosh, this is getting kind of crazy now, isn't it?
Yeah. And so there was that always on the road thing. And, if you're on the road, you realize that it's not glamorous. And it's how quickly can I get home? I mean, I leave Thursday night, lecture Friday, and hopefully, depending on where I am in the country, I can get on a Friday night flight and get home at 1 o'clock in the morning. And sometimes you can't. Yeah. But that started to seem getting old, and I wanted to do more of what I call fun travel. All right. And so I've been doing a little bit more of that. But with that, I still keep the consulting thing going. That depends on how many clients or what we're looking to do at any given time. I'll still do webinars. Those are easy. I don't have to go anywhere. And if I can cut the video, I can do it, in shorts and a t-shirt. So, those are always things that I look at. It's different. I'll write an article. I've been writing articles for 20 years again. Some of this stuff is different. And at this point, I'm the dinosaur.
You're not a dinosaur. And one of the things that I appreciate about you the most, and one of the things that made me have so much respect for you, is you are that guy that will research the material before you get up and stand on a podium and talk about it. Like I used to see you everywhere, but we were both very much in that same category of people that, like, you're not just going to pay me to talk about this. No. I'm going to vet it first.
No, I got to use it, because if I can't stand behind my words, then it's not worth saying the words. I know plenty of people in this business who've done that for their lifetime of lecturing. And some of them are very good and they disclose it, and some of them don't say a word.
Yeah, so you're right. But that's why I wanted you on the show so much, is because I know that about you. Like, I know that those packs on your desk, you're using them before you'll ever talk about them. And then you actually have a good say in the voting for the best in class. So I'll
tell you a good story. We all probably know Sonicville. All right. So when Ron Jackson was developing along with Kerr, Sonicville, I remember playing with the first iteration of it. And I said, oh my God, this thing is so bad. It will never work. I can't imagine anybody buying it, and it's a waste of everybody's time. Okay. Jump to the next year and I'm going, this ain't so bad. Jump to the third year and it's released and I'm going, this is pretty cool. It's working. It does what I want it to do. So, you got to keep that open mind, because just because I may see something in a product development stage doesn't mean it ends there. And the usual problem is that engineers design things, but then the dentist comes in at the end. Yeah. And the button's in the wrong place and the thing doesn't work the way you want it, and that's because they at that point they committed too much R&D to what it is, and they can't go backwards. Whereas that's why we try with clients to say, hey, if we're going to do this product development and R&D, first of all, we need to be involved at the beginning, not the end. And then the job is, can we break it? Yeah. All right. Or there's times I talk about playing with software. We go in the sandbox and can we find the bugs? How much can we beat on the software and find the issues that we need to find so that the company then can go fix them? Yeah. And that's the kind of, product development that I do and have done, both myself and with Paul and John over the years. And, we get a kick out of doing it. It's fun. It's a good thing to do. So, in terms of time, it all depends on any given project at any point. Right now I've been out on the road a bit. But that'll come to the end in the summer, because as Jeff, I'm going to be on the beach in the summer. Okay.
There you go.
I live at the beach, so I need to be at the beach. I don't want to go any place I don't have to. I may take a week's vacation, but I'm not going out on the road if I don't have to during the summer, and that'll pick up.
All the Jersey guys, Jersey people want to know: Belmar, Manasquan?
Neither.
Which is it?
Well, I happen to live in Seabright, and I walk across.
Seabright, okay.
Okay. I don't anymore normally go south of Asbury Park, because I don't need to go south of Asbury Park. No, as growing up in Central Jersey, I was a Belmar guy. And spent many days in Belmar. But as of now, and I did spend many nights in Asbury Park, even when it wasn't a good place to be.
Yeah.
And I went through from the late 70s through current, and I've seen the changes. But yeah, no. So
and I haven't been there in a long time, but I have a few weeks from Seaside Heights and Wildwood that have escaped my memory and probably should.
I got lots of stories, but we'll keep those for another time.
I actually still have a crop T-shirt from Wildwood, Wildwood 1983, where
it comes up
where it would now show
now
it would show my beer belly.
It wasn't originally a crop top.
No.
That was a full-length T-shirt.
Yeah, it was a full-length T-shirt. It just it doesn't quite make it.
Now
No, in New Jersey, you bought them as crop shirts too. Like this was a thing. It was a thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Marty, where are you going to be? Are you going to be anywhere cool next? Are you doing any good lectures anytime soon, or anything we should be looking for?
Next lecture is going to be in California, LA, San Fernando Valley Dental Society, end of June. It's their first in-person meeting in 2.5 years, I guess.
Wow.
But I'll be doing that with John and Paul. So that should be a lot of fun. And so if you're out in California and LA, might as well come see us. After that, I'm trying to think. I just booked one for Philadelphia in April of next year. But that hasn't been put together yet. So it was just, can you do the date? Yeah, I may bring a few. As I said, is it okay if I bring friends? And their answer is, yeah, I bring anybody you want. Because, that's kind of the thing that I always have gone out with, is that it's more fun to do it with other people.
Absolutely.
Than it is for me to stand up there and do it all by myself. I just did a couple of months ago, I did a night lecture, for a local dental society. And I was like, boy, I haven't done a night lecture in forever. I mean, that goes back to early in my career where that was, it was a big deal. I mean, somebody asked me to speak. And then
I'm still okay with it if they feed you drinks.
Yeah, well, you got to drive home. That's the problem. But it was just like different because I hadn't done it in so long. I had done a full day for those guys a while back, and they asked me to come do an evening one for like an update. And so it was a lot of fun, but again, been doing it a long time. I mean, it's not anything new. I've lectured around the world internationally, and that's been fun. But it's interesting that if you had asked me at a dental school, was this something I thought I'd be doing? The answer was absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, the biggest joke I usually tell is the last dental materials lecture I thought I'd ever be at was in dental school. All right?
Not the truth.
And then I'm sitting there going, I give lectures on dental materials. This is crazy.
That's funny.
And yes, I do, whether it, depending on what it is, and it is what it is. And it's just pretty funny to me that I would think about, how are the diamonds lined up on a burr, or how is, what's the shrinkage rate of this composite? And, never in a million years did I think that would be, something I'd be doing, that I'd be out lecturing, but here it is 20 plus years later and I do it. So, it's
Marty,
fun.
you're still doing a great job at it. JB, you have anything else for Marty?
No, I think this is great. I think as a dental consumer, where can we find a lot of your product reviews and feedback?
Well, we don't do reviews. All right. Okay. I don't review. I used to do reviews years ago for, like, I was part of Catapult for a while, and I was part of some other things, but we don't do reviews. You want reviews, there's plenty of them out there. In fact, now the easiest way to find a review is post something in a Facebook group, and then start the battle.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I always look at it as kind of like, WWE at that point. But with that, it's you'll see me in magazines, you'll see me on webinars and things like that. But, I tell people it's really about learning yourself.
Right.
It's about figuring out what works for you and how you get there. It's kind of like part of that journey. And, if you've got associates, you know what I'm talking about. You come in and they don't know a lot, and then you watch them grow over time. Well, all of us, no matter how many years we've been practicing, and I got the gray hair now to prove it, is that you still keep growing. What's the new material? And so one of the things that I like to talk about is that there isn't a single procedure that I start doing, any single one, the way I was taught in dental school. All right? I don't. I've got other techniques. I've got other materials. I've got other, pieces of equipment. So I don't do that. And then why? When you hear people go, well, that's what I was taught in dental school. Okay, that's one thing if you're out 2 or 3 years. It's another when you're out 25 years. And, I still see people who are afraid to jump into technology, especially like, things like, it took forever for people to totally convert to digital radiography. And we're still not at 100%, by the way, at this point. We're in the high 90s. So, that's good. We're seeing a quick adoption of, intraoral scanning. But what we're not finding is people figuring out the new things to do with it. The things that were impossible are now possible.
Mm-hmm.
Through visit dentures, printing dentures. That one of the things that no one did well, I don't care what technique you ever used, which was, how did you retrofit a crown to a partial? Okay. Back in the old days, I don't care what thing you did. It took forever to adjust it. It never was right. It was probably easier to make a new partial. Well, now guess what? I can digitally scan it and drop the thing in, and maybe I got to tweak the clasp. That was impossible. There's a lot of things that we're doing digitally now that just were here. Another example, I had a woman the other day. I hadn't seen her in a long time because she had moved. She moved back to the area, and she comes in and she says, I've had 3 dentures made since this one that you made 15 years ago, and none of them were any good. So I said to her, okay, I can duplicate that now.
Mm-hmm.
I can make an exact duplicate of it. I never could do that. I scanned the denture, sent it to the lab. They printed it out, and there you go. And so, the impossible is just impossible for now. It's not can it be done? It's when will it be done?
Yeah. Well, Marty, we're actually a little bit over on time.
Okay.
But I want to thank you so much for coming on, and your passion absolutely comes through. Your candor, it's obvious that you love our profession and that you bring honesty to everything that you do. So I, for one, appreciate that. I know everyone out there really appreciates it. And thanks for everything that you've done for dentistry and for education. And I can go on, but you're really someone I admire, and I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Well, thank you. And if there's any time you want to do something different, I'm happy to do it. And maybe one day when I'm actually going to retire, all right?
None of us are retiring.
Well, no. That's when I get to the point where I don't give a, fill in the blank. That's when you go no holds barred, and you can actually say everything that you want to do. I can tell you about what my thoughts are of this organization or that, because I got nothing to worry about at that point.
I hear that.
We all have those biases, but it's a lot of fun, and I thank you for having me tonight, and I enjoyed the few minutes we got to spend.
Thanks, Marty, so much.
Absolutely. Great to see you, Marty. Have a good night, buddy.
Good seeing you. Bye now.
Okay. Be well.